This is a great model and I look forward to the production versions hitting the shelves. A big hello to you, so great to see you and I hope I find you well. I'm Jenny Kirk, welcoming you up here to Weir Yard, and today we're going to be having an exclusive first look at the pre-production decorated samples of not one but two forthcoming models. Now these are both some quite quirky oddities and they come from KR Models, who up until now have really excelled on making quirky oddities. These were both announced a while ago and we have seen here on this channel the undecorated EP samples of both of these, but it's really great to finally have a working model here that we can put through its paces, and more importantly as well, look at how the decoration has come together. DHP1 is in a slightly more accelerated stage of development and features the ESU Lock Sound 5 decoder that will be running through all of the different sound functions. Whereas the leader, I've fitted it with a DCC decoder, but we don't have the sound file for that just yet. So it'll be really interesting to see how both of these locomotives perform. And I'd like to thank KR Models for very kindly loaning both of these pre-production samples to the channel so that you guys can have a good close look. So come with me in association with Trainomatic, makers of DCC decoders and accessories that are designed by enthusiasts for enthusiasts. Find the full range available to order now at tramfabrique.co.uk. Additional support comes from...
This is Clark Railworks and this is what we do. You'll know us from Ellis Clark Trains and you'll get the same friendly expertise with us too. We've got a huge range of pre-owned model railways from all your favourite manufacturers, and maybe some you hadn't heard of before. It's the place to come for quality. We don't stock substandard models, and everything we sell is fully tested and photographed by model railway experts. No matter whether you model double-O gauge, N, HO or more, we have sought after models from all around the world with new listings added every weekday. Check out what's available now at clarkrailworks.com and don't miss out on your latest logo.
I really did enjoy the GT3, and that's now gone through its third production run, along with some what-if liveries that have proven so popular that KR Models are actually offering what-if liveries on these two models as well, and they've actually proven quite popular. And before you start splurting your tea at the screen, it has to be said that quite a few other manufacturers have also dabbled at what-if liveries, and some of them have done really well. In fact, the 15XX tank locomotive in GWR green that came recently from Rapido Trains was one of the first to sell out in a livery that the real locomotive never carried. So these are certainly popular, and I must admit, from my own personal point of view, I'm actually really pleased to see Rail Blue coming up as an option for both of these models. But what are they really like? Is this something that you should be purchasing for your collection? And certainly if you haven't been able to get to shows, and these will be at the Great Electric Train Show and Worley later on this year, then this is the next best thing as we delve into taking a good close look at these decorated pre-production models from KR Models. But first of all, do please tickle that like button and share this video too, and also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, and it's a great way of helping the channel grow. With GT3 and FEL already delivered, KR Models have turned their attention to yet more interesting and niche prototypes, which is part of their raison d'etre. And to that end, we've got two pre-production hand-decorated samples which have been sent over very kindly on loan for review. Now you will be able to see these up close at the Great Electric Train Show, but for now I've been given exclusive early access to these to put them through their paces. Now you have to bear in mind that these are pre-production and hand-finished samples, so if you see anything on this where, for example, some of the handrails have been knocked, or the grills look a bit dented, or the buffers a little bit loose, that is because of the pre-production nature of this. It's been through the post between China, Canada, and also to the UK, so I am going to cut it quite a bit of slack for any minor damage. This is just par for the course when dealing with pre-production samples. The prototype itself was something of a complete failure, and that's probably why, like me, you'd never really heard of it before KR Models announced that they were taking on the challenge. Built as a demonstrator by the Clayton equipment company, it borrowed a lot of its styling from the Class 17, although this featured a hydraulic transmission rather than electric, and it was a monumental failure. And my understanding is that it ran but once and was very quickly got rid of after that, as it was proven to be pretty much a dead end in locomotive technology. As you can imagine, that means that photographs are few and far between. But in our model railway world, that doesn't matter, and certainly KR Models will be offering this up not just in its prototypical livery as seen here, but also BR Green and BR Rail Blue in some very sure to be popular What If liveries, as these have done incredibly well with their GT3 model. The finish on this, I do like the satin look. We got a slight little bit of orange peel going on, but that does give it a little bit more of a texture, which to my eyes, actually, I quite like it. We've also got some pretty sharp printing. So you can see there the Clayton Equipment Company Limited, Hatton, Derby. That is printed on and is nicely legible on the camera viewfinder. Looking below the sole bar, I really do hope that the production models also have this degree of finish on the bogies. We've got the off-white, the grey, the black and the yellow, showing how the bearing covers are picked out there and other bits of detail. And I quite like this because it really does highlight the detail of these bogies. Looking to the centre, we've got battery boxes, fuel tanks, and these cover up and hide where the speaker is mounted, and you can just see the speaker inside there through the grille. And this particular model is fitted with the sound decoder, so we will run through those functions later on in this video. It feels to me that we've got all-wheel drive, all-wheel pickup, and quite a reasonable amount of weight here, with some low-down die-cast components to really make this something which I expect to be quite a good performer on the track, and we will be putting it through its paces. The buffers are sprung, although again pre-production hand-finished example, so don't be surprised that these have taken a bit of a knock in transit, but certainly I do like the smear of grease on the buffer faces, which gives us that black and silver look. It's something which is starting to appear on ready-to-run models more and more. Looking to the front, we've got the etched metal grills. We've got directional lighting up here, and what I'm going to take to be head code boxes, although it's doubtful on the real ones that these ever got a chance to be used. We've got separately fitted lamp irons. Again, these are a little bit bent, but then we've got, I think, these are plastic handrails by the feel of it, but then we've got separately fitted metal parts, the handles for the access hatches, and that is actually just printed on there at the side, and some extra louvres at the top of the bonnets. Looking further down the side, it's a smooth finish here. There's not really much distinguishing details down here other than the doorway and steps, and this is flush to the sole bar. I do like that DHP1 printing, it's crisp and sharp, and then we've got the demarcation there where above bonnet height the cab goes to this cream colour, and this does look to be cream rather than white, with the windows picked out quite nicely. I like the silver surrounds. It does hide any attempt by the material to give a kind of prismy effect at the edges, and that is quite a nice touch. The front face, old sad eyes. It's more reminiscent to me of some of the SNCF locomotives which adopted the centre cab switcher design, and certainly this locomotive does look rather more continental to me than British, even though it is thoroughly a British product. We've got couplings fitted in NEM pockets coming as standard with slimline tension locks, and it looks to me that the body is held on with a number of crosshead screws, but I will investigate getting the top off so we can take a look inside. All in all, for this rather obscure prototype, this really does look good, and I'm particularly looking forward to some of the What If liveries in BR Green and also in the Rail Blue. Certainly these have been a popular livery for the GT3s in their third run, and I'm sure that they will do quite well for this, even though it wasn't a long-lived prototype, but certainly I can imagine these having a pride of place on your layout and maybe even pressed into use as an industrial locomotive. I could well see these being used as a heavy shunting locomotive somewhere like steelworks or otherwise, and that is maybe something that people might like to consider, certainly for some of the different livery options. The locomotive itself is held together with 8 screws as far as I can tell. We've got 2 at the front, 2 further back, another 2 there, and 2 here as well. And opening that up reveals a central can motor with twin flywheels giving transmission to bogie towers, which give us the all-wheel drive. There's a lot of cast metal in here, so you can see that this chassis is really substantial. And then we've got the circuit board along the top. This one here is pre-fitted with the ESU Locksound 5. And then looking to the lighting, we've got bicolour LEDs by the look of it for the marker lights, and then 4 of these LEDs at each end for the head code boxes. There doesn't appear to be any cab lights, but there's also not any cab interior. So for my liking, that's not really a problem. And you can see here that the body itself is quite a lightweight plastic body with the glazing is fitted in there. The white bloom is simply because this has been hand assembled out of parts at the factory in China, but certainly it looks to be a pretty substantial and reliable construction inside. So I've got the locomotive on the track. I'm going to try the headlights, and they do come up. I like that sort of fade in, and if we go to the direction as well, they fade change to the red marker lights. And I do like that because these would have been tungsten filament bulbs, and they of course would fade in and fade out because of the glowing nature of that tungsten filament. So I like the way that that has been caught accurately. I'm also quite interested about that head code, and let's go for that. It's on F19 on the sound decoder. And that actually comes on accompanied by the light switch clicking sound, which was something on the GT3. The cab light would go on and off with that clicking sound. And if I change direction again, that has that quite pleasing fade in and fade out, and it's only the forward head code that is illuminated. There are no head code numbers in there, and I suppose that stands to reason because this locomotive never really ran in traffic, so there would have never been cause to put the head code blinds actually inside there. So it's an interesting touch, and I do wonder whether on the BR Green or the BR Rail Blue version there will be a head code in there, but I don't have that information. When it comes to running, we've got a pretty smooth response. What's interesting is that that head code box goes off when it moves, which leads me to wonder if it's something else. So we can see it goes off, and quite a smooth response there. This is the test sound suite on this decoder, so I am told that there may be some changes, and they haven't as yet got the full lighting map mapped out. but certainly we've got a fairly smooth response, and it takes a little while for the locomotive to come to a halt. I'm going to try and work through some of the sounds. Again, I don't have any paperwork for this locomotive, so it's going to be a case of trial and error. If I sound a little bit more distant, I've moved the microphone, you can see it there in shot, to primarily capture what the locomotive is doing. So let's go for a startup. Working there through all the different spot sounds. Now, KR models have told me that the sound profile is still being fine-tuned, and it's apparent that the engine revving isn't quite working in both directions on this pre-production model, but that will of course be sorted for the production ones. And there were a few little glitches, but actually overall it's quite an interesting sound file, and certainly a bit different from any of the other locomotives that I have heard. On the Weird Torture test track, it took in down to radius 1 curves with absolute ease. The pulling power was pretty impressive actually, and there was no sign of wheel slip or anything along those lines with any of the test trains. On the Torture test track it was actually quite a short train, but that does include some really quite steep 5% gradients, so that is quite impressive. On the main track, it managed to pull my 7 bogie coach plus 2 4-wheel van test train with absolute ease, and it was very much apparent that this could have taken on a much longer train if that's what you wanted to tax it with, and certainly far more power and reliability than the prototype ever had. Not content with sending over the DHP1 prototype, we also have a decorated pre-production sample of the Leader, which really is one of the most peculiar locomotives that I've ever seen. It looks just like a diesel, but it is in fact a steam locomotive designed by Oliver Bulleid, and quite frankly, when you read up the specs, it was very much a solution looking for a problem. But it is a quirky prototype and certainly more mainstream than the DHP1, and this is something again that has never been offered ready to run for modelers to have on their layout. It's also going to be made available in a number of fictitious liveries, as well as this prototypical silver. Now the silver does make it quite tricky to film, simply because the camera doesn't seem to like the contrast between the black and the silver. Now, one of the things which I have to say is a little bit more pronounced than any of the photographs that I've seen are these rivets. You can see here they're quite pronounced, but on the real locomotive these were countersunk rivets. So it's a shame that this area is a little bit more pronounced than it needs to be, but certainly I think most people who probably never saw the Leader running in real life, it's not necessarily a big deal. Again, being a hand-finished pre-production decorated sample, we do have some damage to the metal handrails that's come about from its lengthy trips across the Pacific Ocean and then the Atlantic Ocean as well. We've got fully working lights on this, although we don't have the sound example here, so I will be trying to fit it with a regular DCC decoder and taking a look at its running performance. Up on the roof we've got this insert which looks to be a resin casting. I do like those really quite chunky lumps of coal, and certainly if you're worried about this popping out, then a little dab of glue will hold that in place. And I suspect, looking that there's no chute details underneath, that on the actual production model that will be glued into place. Now these were considered something of a death trap, certainly for the poor individual who had to fire this, because did he go in that cab? Or did he go in that cab? No, he didn't actually go in either. The poor fireman went in there with a single door to escape out of if this were to happen to derail and roll over. You'd hope that it rolled over to in such a way as to let the fireman escape, but hotter than the pit of hell is probably an apt description to how these things were to actually fire. The driver had their lovely cabs at either end with a fully opening central window which would have given at least some degree of ventilation. They look something like a tube train to me from the ends, but these bogies are certainly something that is really quite impressive. I do like these. Well, they're not really box wheels as far as I can see. We've got them open to the back, although we do have that Bulleid brown Firth look to them, and certainly they do have a really incredible presence. The rest of the detail of this curious drive arrangement is all on the sides of these bogies. I don't know whether these are going to feature any additional picking out of detail, but certainly a quick blowover with weathering would certainly bring alive some of this detail. Looking to the centre, we've got additional bits and pieces going on here with what look to be some of the brake cylinders, and this here appears to be the ash hopper underneath the grate, which would have, I guess, collected the ash and allowed it to be dumped at a convenient location. Both bogies appear to be of a similar design. There is a ladder which is different, so I'm just going to show you there. We do have appropriately applied the additional ladder for the fireman, and I have to say that if you drew the short straw on coming into work saying, hey, good for you, you're firing one of those new Leaders, I think that there's probably one or two firemen who might have considered just quitting there and then on the spot. The silver livery is quite striking, not unlike some of the other one-offs that we've seen, such as Falcon and Lion, and certainly I can't imagine that this stayed this pristine in service, as these things would probably be somewhat of a dirty beast, especially once they've been through the coal hopper a few times. Ignore some of these metal handrails that have got bent in transit, and we've got, looking to the underside, we've got slimline tension locks in a NEM pocket, and these are fastened onto the bogies themselves. Looking along the underside, I can't see any screws, and I suspect that this is a clip-on fit. And I'm going to go delving inside now and just see what we've got. But we do have what appears to be all-wheel drive and all-wheel pickup. And there is quite an incredible weight to this, just like we saw with the DHP1. Taking the body off is quite easy. Just get your fingernails just underneath the edges and gently pull them apart at both ends, and then the body itself is just a clip fit. It slides off. Just putting that to one side, let's take a look at the internals of this model. And it's an interesting setup, and if anything, I can only conclude that they've put on this sample the circuit board upside down, because we appear to have cab lights but pointing up, and the decoder socket has been fitted on the underside, which is a little bit peculiar. Just moving the circuit board to one side, it does give the opportunity to show you that we've got this central CAN motor with the twin flywheels, and in turn we've got a transmission that goes to these bogie towers at either end. We've also got a substantial quantity of casting in here, which does give a lot of weight, and then we also have some cab interiors too, although as it stands there's no decoration in these cabs, but I can imagine that it will be quite an easy thing to do, just to add a little bit of decoration of your own. Quite interestingly, we've also got what appear to be head code lights front and back, as well as those cab lights, although there doesn't appear to be anything in the central area where the fireman would be. The leader is a very heavy model, and that all-wheel drive does make sure that it runs incredibly well. It's got a lot of power behind it and a lot of grip, and it handled the 7 bogie coach plus 2 4-wheel van test train like it wasn't even there. I really like these sprung buffers too. They've got a real sense of power to them, and the spring on them is absolutely perfect. The lighting on this pre-production model was a little bit ambiguous. I don't have any paperwork to go with it, and I'm told it hasn't yet been fully programmed, so that may explain why I couldn't quite fathom out the directional lights. However, it does appear to have 6 different lighting functions, and with the decoder I used, which was a 4+2 type decoder, that suggests that that is the type of decoder that you'll be needing to make full use of this. It does appear to have working cab lights, as well as multiple options for the end lights too, although there is no lighting in the fireman's compartment. One thing that might be missing is a very, very hot fireman's head sticking out of the doorway here. I suspect that in service that door was never shut, as the poor fireman tried to get at least a little bit of cooler air. It has to be said that the prototype leader was very much a solution looking for a problem. It pushed steam locomotive design onwards and further at a time when steam locomotives were already obsolete. But Oliver Bulleid was very much a man who pushed the limits of the technology, albeit with somebody else's purse strings. Whilst a number of these locomotives were under construction, only 36001 was completed and ran, and it was already completely obsolete. with the operational difficulties of keeping that fireman alive in the extreme heat that was inside them, they certainly were not a popular locomotive, and the real leader was broken up without ceremony along with her unfinished sisters. However, this is the first time it has been offered ready to run, and it will certainly prove to be popular. The silver and black is really difficult to video because the camera can't seem to decide whether it wants to focus on the really dark black or the really light shiny silver. And I'm really looking forward to some of those what-if liveries, particularly the rail blue. It has a look of the Wonderloaf, or as most people might be more familiar with, the Class 28 Metrovic, and certainly might not look out of place next to that in model form. With a mechanical stoker, maybe using pulverized coal of the type that went on to be very popular for coal-fired power stations, it's possible that this could have become a success, but the writing was already on the wall for this rather quirky prototype as diesel and electric was making a come-through, and really it was never going to be anything more than an oddball curiosity and a footnote in history. To that end, KR Models have captured the look and feel of this model really well, with only that slightly more prominent riveting really to detract from this model, and it's only a minor gripe that I have. All in all, this is a great model, and I look forward to the production versions hitting the shelves. Well, I hope you really enjoyed this exclusive look at these pre-production decorated samples, and certainly for me it's quite interesting to see how these models turned out, because we did have the EPs of these quite a little while ago now, and it's always really interesting just to see models progressing and see what happens in the process that used to just happen behind closed doors, even up to a few years ago, when manufacturers were a little bit more cagey about showing off some of these things, and certainly about loaning them to little old YouTubers like me. But I'd also love to hear from you about the what-if liveries. These do seem to be becoming quite popular, and we've seen them from a number of different manufacturers, and they don't even have to be the wild and wacky. Certainly we've seen the 15XX pannier tank as one of the more recent examples, where it was often GWR green, even though the real locomotives were delivered just into British Railways ownership. And with these models from KR Models, we've got rail blue and BR green being offered as alternatives for the DHP1, as well as the BR black with silver trim and the small crest, and also rail blue examples being offered for the leader as well. Although it'd be quite interesting to see just what might have been with the leader had the technology not hit the buffer stops of that technological dead end, being superseded by the development of both diesel and electric tractions. And certainly, for me at least, the real leader was a solution just looking around for a problem, which is never a great thing in engineering, but certainly they added an interesting footnote to the development of Britain's railways, and available now for the first time through KR Models, ready to run in 00. Now, if you really like the look of the models that we featured today, they can be ordered from the link in the description box down below, and we've put those there just to help you out. And you can also follow the link that's down there over to Patreon and help support the channel to keep making the videos that you want to see. We've got a number of different tiers of rewards, and it's a great way of helping out the channel and getting something into the bargain for yourselves. Please like, share and subscribe, and until next time, this is me, Jenny Kirk, saying you take great care of yourself. Happy modelling. Bye for now. Today's video comes in association with Trainomatic, makers of DCC decoders and accessories that are designed by enthusiasts for enthusiasts. Find the full range available to order now at tramfabrique.co.uk. Additional support is provided by...
This is Clark Railworks, and this is what we do. You'll know us from Ellis Clark Trains, and you'll get the same friendly expertise with us too. We've got a huge range of pre-owned model railways from all your favourite manufacturers, and maybe some you hadn't heard of before. It's the place to come for quality. We don't stock substandard models, and everything we sell is fully tested and photographed by model railway experts. No matter whether you model 00 gauge, N, HO or more, we have sought after models from all around the world with new listings added every weekday. Check out what's available now at clarkrailworks.com and don't miss out on your latest logo.
I'd like to thank everybody over on Patreon, and an extra special huge thanks goes out to our Patreon heroes. Without you guys over on Patreon, we really wouldn't be able to keep making the video content that you see on this channel. And don't forget that you can also head on over to patreon.com/Jennifer Kirk and check out the different tiers of rewards. Thank you so much. You are absolute legends.